But far more interesting for all of us at We Robotics is if we could have an independent team of professionals who are actually trained and have expertise in M&E, which is I've worked in this space quite a bit. It's in itself its own area of expertise. You take courses, graduate courses on that. There is trainings on that. It's not if you're an expert in drone that you're all of a sudden expert in M&E evaluating drones. That's actually completely wrong. So this is just a plea for help and an open call for help. If any of you have interest, expertise in monitoring, impact assessments, and so on, you are all more than welcome to join us at any time on any of our projects and carry out completely independent evaluations, because that's the only way that we're going to learn faster. We may eventually learn those lessons, but it might be 6 months or a year later. And having that kind of independent input is just invaluable. We've invited, just to be completely transparent here, we have made that offer to a number of organizations that have strong M&E departments or components. None of them have yet taken us up on it because they need the funding in order to make it happen. So, we're continuing those conversations, and we hope that funding will become available to those evaluators so they can come in and help us evaluate what we do. As far as failures, I don't know what else there was in terms of failures. $40,000 drone not working, and then the slip up with the batteries, which is not something we want to boast about, obviously, or would love to make super public, but it's the truth. All right, this is probably what happened. We learned our lesson. That was silly, and I can guarantee you that it will never happen again. But the last thing I'll say on your final questions, I think there needs to be a fail-fair specifically for drones. There have been a number of fail-fairs, I believe, in the UK, and I know certainly in Washington, D.C., that I've been participating in at least a few years back now. I would love to have a fail-fair that celebrates, if you'd like, some phenomenal failures in the use of drones in humanitarian aid, development, public health projects. And I can tell you that I know of several striking, dramatic, mind-blowing failures of other projects that I have not been involved in. But it's not for me to make those public. It's not for me to talk about those. I think it's for them to get on the stage and say, listen, this is what we learned the hard way. So I'd be a big fan. And if there's anybody here who is interested in potentially helping organize or host a fail-fair on drones, then definitely let me know. We still have a good 12 minutes for the call, but I just want to answer Wallace's question here on the chat. What was the payload, please? So just to repeat, the payload for the December flights was anti-venom dials and blood samples, and 2 days ago it was saline solution as a simulation, as a mock sort of transportation of blood. Hopefully that answers your question. It's a great question. Thank you. Any other follow-up questions or advice that anybody might have?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, hi everyone. I'm working in Brazil with drones, mapping some high potential risk areas here in Brazil. I'd like to know about how to persuade some sponsors.
How to persuade donors, you mean?
Yes, in Brazil, for example, because we have several case studies here that we have done. I'd like to know if you have some advices on how to persuade some sponsors, the private sponsors. For example, you have funds from Rockefeller Foundation, right?
Right. That's the biggest question and the hardest thing is.
But in Brazil, we don't have this culture. Unfortunately, we don't have many foundations like Rockefeller Foundation, for example. But we have some foundations here.
Yeah, no.
How do you present a project to
I think
to
I don't think I have any magic solutions here. I think it is a lot of hard work. We have to spend a significant amount of time doing grant proposals, reaching out to potential donors, to potential companies with corporate social responsibility programs, and so on. And like anything in fundraising, the vast majority of the answers will be no. But it only takes one or two, right? And so you have to keep going. What I would say is, and this is not surprising, it's not nuclear physics or anything, but what's important is to really do your homework in capturing the most compelling use cases. You have to be able to tell a story based on reality, based on facts, right? And this is why I bring up the experience from Peru, where, and this again, full credit goes to Juan here. Juan spent a considerable amount of time meeting with the Ministry of Health and doctors and others in Lima and across Peru, traveling to some of these different areas. At one point, we were looking at Cusco and spending time there, meeting with a local clinic, the local hospital, all this kind of on-site exploration, fact-finding is really key. It's not always possible to do it because it takes time, it takes money, and so on. But that will get you closer to finding out for yourself, regardless of whether the funding then comes through or not, what the most compelling, the most inspiring use cases are. Something like Contamana to Pampa Hermosa takes 6 hours with a canoe, takes 35 minutes with a drone. We're talking about anti-venom, which is life-saving. We found a use case there that was so compelling that donors and Ministry of Health and others, are then convinced, because you have to be able to convince your partners and your donors. So, so I think it really is about it really is about doing that homework. And I mentioned we have 4 phases in our Flying Labs framework in terms of how to build a Flying Labs. Phase 1 is scoping, and it is, out of the 4 phases, the most important. And in many respects, the most challenging. It's really figuring out what are the major challenges, what are the key actors, what has already been done, and is robotics even an appropriate solution for those challenges? In some cases, it'll be the worst possible suggestion you can make, and that takes longer than any of the other phases, in some cases for us, is figuring out those use cases, the challenges, the main partners, the main actors, and so on. So I would say, find out what that incredibly inspiring, impactful story is, and make sure you know how to present it, and then approach different donors with that. But yeah, I don't have magic words. It's just really challenging.
Right. It's perfect. Perfect.
Thank you. Thanks, Wallace. All right, we have just a couple more minutes, but I'm happy to take any more questions. I just pinged Juan on chat, and he's happy. He doesn't have. Let me see. He's adding something else. Something to add. Yeah, I think what he's just shared with me by chat. I think he's having trouble getting on the audio. Is we're not just doing these field tests just for the sake of doing field tests and projects. They are all a means to an end. They are all to help us understand as quickly as possible what works and what doesn't work under which circumstances and for which use cases. Because ultimately what we're, the holy grail here, ultimately the vision and what is inspiring us to do this in the first place is to eventually be able to pivot from field testing to establishing a national medical cargo drone network across Peru, across parts of the Amazon rainforest, and why not also in Colombia region of the Amazon and the Brazilian region of the Amazon rainforest, right? These are just one-off tests that we're doing to learn as quickly as possible. But just to be very clear, because I actually did not emphasize this in my presentation, the end goal is having regular, affordable, sustainable, reliable cargo drone deliveries in key points across the Amazon rainforest and do this, around the year, on a weekly basis as needed. And so, we just to let you know also on that note that we're already having a number of conversations with some public health experts at Johns Hopkins University and elsewhere, because they know we've told them this is our, this is the vision here. And again, we're not going to be the experts on the public health side in terms of medical logistics and national health systems. So we've already invited them, to come in 6 months' time. Hopefully, it's when we get up and running with regular services, for them to then evaluate what the overall impact of the cargo drone deliveries are over 6 months to 12 months, not just a couple of days or a couple of weeks. That's not enough to really understand what the overall impact on the public health system is. And so that is ultimately where we're headed, because it remains to be seen. I think there are good reasons to believe that this will add value and it's compelling and so on, but that's not good enough. This has got to be scientific. It has got to be evaluated independently by scientists who have rigorous methodologies and who understand this domain expertise a lot better than we do. And so just to let you know, this is definitely part of the plan. And let's be completely upfront here. It could very well be that once we're able to do the regular drone deliveries and we have this Johns Hopkins involved with the independent evaluation over 6 months, 12 months, it could very well be that after 12 months the results show little to no impact, right? We don't know that. We have reason to believe that this is not going to be the case based on the discussions we've had with doctors and so on and so forth. But let's prove it scientifically. That's really, really important to us at We Robotics, is really understanding how you can have the most real impact with the use of robotics. So I think I'll end at that, and then just close again with the main point that I was hoping that we'd all take from this is that it's really not about the kind of drone at the end of the day, right? It's in a way we're open to the different kinds of drones that are out there. It really depends on which kinds of drones are the most appropriate for those specific use cases. And of course, it could very well be that in a year or two, the Ministry of Health comes back and says, okay, now we need to do 300 kilometers delivery, right? And Frankie and Laura are not going to be able to do that. And so that may then require a more sophisticated platform, for sure. So just to, again, conclude with the point that it's not about, affordable drones are good and expensive drones are bad. Please, 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 do not fall for that trap. It really depends on what is the most appropriate for all these different factors and circumstances, So at the end of the day, we don't care about which drone is it, as long as it is one that works, as long as it is repairable on site, that it's easy to use, and that it fits the budget. I think that's really, really key. Thank you so much for all of you for joining. There'll be a video recording of this presentation in case you want to share it with others. And stay tuned for our following webinars scheduled for April and May. We're going to have colleagues from Japan and elsewhere share about their phenomenal work with drones. And this is just a call again for interest. If you're keen to share your good work and your challenges, obviously, and any failures you might have had in the use of robotics and drones, please get in touch. We'd love for you to give a webinar and share that with the rest of the community. So thanks again, really, really appreciate it. And we're all learning as best as we can here. So thanks again, and have a great day.